When we try and express this tacit level of knowledge, whether it be across or within an organisation, or about ourselves, it cannot be done. And when we choose to represent that in words, we have epistemological error. We start to try and operate in the world in a way that doesn't represent the way the world works. Let's move to a related area rather than using polyonymy, tacit and explicit. Let's move on to Nonaka, Nonaka. Nonaka was interested in, and here again is a contradiction in Batesonian terms, interested in the knowledge creating company. He and his colleagues, because he didn't do this entirely on his own, was interested in what in the normal strategy language we would call knowledge transfer. Now, knowledge transfer as an expression is very, very misleading. Well, first of all, as I've said to you, knowledge doesn't exist. Even if I'm talking about something specific, I don't know, at the moment I'm building a virtual railway, so I'm using the technology of the virtual railway to build a virtual railway for my very real son, for him to play trains. We would say there is knowledge of that package, of that system. And you could transfer that from one user to another user. Hey, I tell you as a user, you cannot do that. Partly because the receptive system is not as good as it might be in terms of receiving that knowledge transfer. In other words, I'm thick. But also, and more so, is knowledge transfer is just... What we're back to is one individual expressing something and another individual seeing or witnessing that expression and receiving it and then attempting to reconstruct it. Right? The area of using computers is an interesting one to think through, because for yourself, it's an intensely personal experience. Organizationally, teaching people to use computers is quite a significant business area, and money's to be made in the teaching packages so that you can transfer knowledge. But the knowledge transfer, this is what I'm arguing with, is not a good way of describing things. And that when I'm reading those responses, the author has taken for granted stuff that they think I know or they think I should know, but I just don't know. So the route into me starting to use something so I can develop my know-how, not knowledge, my know-how, I can't actually start it off. So, well, in one sense, I find it embarrassing that I can't cope with it. Oh dear, we're turning into a confessional. Anyway, what I'm trying to say to you is this one. What Anarcha brought is a questioning of the idea that we tend to hold within our Western traditions of knowledge and knowledge transfer. Right? What they gave us in their modelling was something which was much more akin to the way in which Gregory Bateson would be thinking, and they gave us this. They gave us the idea that we as human beings learn how to do stuff by being together. We learn to participate. You know, we dwell, and I'm sorry to do this from a kind of childhood thing, but this is the place really to start and understand. We dwell in the family and we understand. And if you've got a 5-year-old like we have, you get this very quickly. Oh, I see things, I hear things, da-di-da-di-da, and then I come out with, well, I'll give you one of the current polite ones. Oh my God! Da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da, a Googoism, okay? So, stuff, socially acquired, social immersion, and it goes on. And it doesn't stop in childhood. The guys are really, really telling us that when groups of people, work groups, and across work groups, mixed work groups, in an organisation, socialise, I'm going to use the word dwell, together, then they start to transfer to each other values or understanding or worldview or perspectives. They might articulate, and this is what they pick up in the literature, and share difficulties or problems. And they find that some members of the group have ways of dealing with them and others don't, and they kind of and share that. So you get tacit knowledge being redeveloped. Now this is actually quite important. The tacit knowledge is not transferred from one individual to another, but it's redeveloped and recreated among the individuals. Sometimes it's recreated really accurately, and sometimes there's error in the recreation. That error can be beneficial. You know, it's a bit like our modelling and our thinking about evolution. The evolution of tacit know-how. I call it knowledge. Tacit knowing how to operate, knowing how to do things, knowing how to accomplish things. The know-how is really, really important. And that happens within those little communities, within the broader communities, within the larger communities. For those of you who've moved from one culture to another culture, so once you move outside your own culture and you're living in a new culture as an adult, you really begin to appreciate some of that, because some of the things you just don't understand, don't get. I often find myself confessing that I'm behaving like a 3 or 4-year-old because I don't understand some of the culture still here in the Philippines. So anyway, when those things emerge, when this coping, because that's a useful word, when this way of coping emerges, tacit, we can then, or we do, try to make that more explicit. And here, people are engaging in an effort to represent what happens tacitly. What Nanaka offers us is strategic architecture, missing from Hamel and Prahalad's work, is actually processing the organisation that facilitate, accelerate, explore and consider representations of that tacit knowledge in words or in process specifications or in procedures, but normally in words. So we have amplified or developed tacit knowing how to do things, represented and being given a description. Okay. What Nanaka then speaks of is how organizations can look at those, or people, sorry, I shouldn't say organizations, people within those organizations look at and recognize those explicit representations of stuff and seek to combine them And in seeking to combine them, they are creating new descriptions, new things. One of my jobs as an academic and as a teacher was actually to do this, to see that, recombine it, package it, and boom. Anyway, it is what I'm doing now. So these representations brought together in combination, and those combinations represent new opportunities. Those explicit descriptors are representative of new opportunities, but you have to be able to, from your immersion within the organization and what it is that it's doing, or what it is people within it are doing, from its vision of why it's there and what it is it's trying to achieve, you can look out from that at those opportunities and recognize them. And those which are seen to be significant or important as new entities, new ideas, people start working on them to bring them about, to bring them into being. And then new work processes, new technique, new technology, new ways of doing things, new ways of coping are developed. So some individuals start converting that explicit representation into a this is what you do, this is how you do things. And when that starts happening, that is then brought back into being, tacit, this is how we do stuff, this is how we do stuff, this is how we do stuff. So you have what Nonako calls the knowledge conversion cycle, but actually what it is the growth of know-how cycle. Okay. Organizations will work when there is know-how shared. Knowing how to do things. This is what really, really matters. Well, where have we got to? Let's recycle back into where we started from, I think. If Bateson was teaching strategy, what would he be doing and asking us to work with, asking us to reflect upon? What would he have me doing, crazily, in class or somehow, somewhere, to enable people to learn about strategy? Not teach. To enable people to learn strategy. Well, I think he might actually encourage us to start. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't go for it. What I was going to say was, let's get hold of Cheer and Holt. Strategy without design. Go for it, son. And I must admit, I mean, that's in a way what I would want to do. I would jump in and But we have to think about what we're doing, what we're thinking. I think Cheer and Holt, well, when you look at their book, bless, and it's such a nicely crafted book, but it's an academic's book. And they develop these beautiful arguments with what is around and wrong, so to speak, an error, a mistake, in the popular strategy literatures of the moment, albeit 10 years ago, plus. The issue is, you simply cannot be that confrontational. No, you simply can't say all this stuff all this stuff that you're used to hearing about strategy, particularly given its association with the military and military backgrounds. All this stuff which is premised on deliberate action is wrong, it's crap, throw it away. I don't think audiences are going to listen. I certainly, if I try and imagine doing it with undergraduates, and maybe with master's students, no way. You might, if you're lucky, with a group of doctoral students, have some success. But certainly on a doctorate of business administration, which was the doctoral program that I was working on and really, really enjoyed, people would be so entrenched in their jobs and their life, and many of them would be consultants trying to improve their consultancy prospect business. Deliberate strategy. You can't throw that away, pal. You can't throw that away. No, Bateson's not going to go there. What we would be trying to do, what we'll be looking to do, is to bring about a real recognition amongst the students of this notion of dwelling. I think that would be the way to go. And then from that notion of dwelling and getting people to explore where they are, we would seek to do some behavior stuff. I'm using the wrong language, aren't I? We would do some simulations. What we would do, we would be giving groups and teams of people tasks. And those tasks designed to challenge their thinking or their communication skill, their ways of talking and ways of interacting to accomplish something that's not obvious and something that's a bit difficult. These games or tasks or adventure training stuff require very, very good facilitation skills. Because what needs to happen is after the experience, there's got to be a penetrating, a surfacing from the students of how things were happening and what it is that they were doing.